Lastly, I'd have share a bit on this week a conference like workshop. Uh, I am really honored that you have invited to speak on such a very interesting topic. We get more sometimes it gets more diverse, sometimes it gets more intense within the UN resolutions or maybe the discussions over the board internationally and nationally. So I guess the leadership quality that, or maybe the youth activity that I worked upon on the, ocean governance has taken the step when I was working in the bachelor's. Meanwhile, I was also, working and studying on the environmental science. Then I went to the as a research intern to the National Maritime Foundation, which is the Indian Navy's think tank. So that's where my entire journey shifted from wholesome of the security, national security, and the diplomacy, which is I'm still the part of, and I shifted it to the ocean diplomacy and the maritime security as well as the conservation part. The best part, I really want to share one thing that is the best part of my life. Because meanwhile I always discuss that with the professionalism when I talk on the my journey where I did what I studied and the rest. But a major part that I had is the in India there are National Cadet Corps, which is the under the Ministry of Defense. So every young individual who have the freedom to choice the whether you want to take the anything NCC sports or maybe the other extracurricular activity during your bachelor's or master's, you can do so. Concluding because the changes has been made, so now the bachelor's only. So I was the junior under officer over there, and
Okay.
there I studied and on the ocean conservation, then maritime security aspects, responses, how they take the responses in the national security as well. The most of the interesting part that came across, I guess, when I started this all this stuff, I was very rookie and I didn't know that where to begin, what to do, what not to do.
Yeah.
And while I was like, oh, MG, what should I do now? There are multiple things on the plate. But then I realized that let's focus on something that is very crucial in nature and not to, depend on something else, which is bypass the gaps and just whatever everyone is doing, just do that. No, that's not the case. Then I indulged more into the national security and the international diplomacy. I represented at the COP where I dealt with the peace and security. I was the young representative over there in the entire high-level roundtables. And then I was also presented at UNIA, which is also the United Nations Environment Programs Initiative and the major event of the UNEP. So mostly the UN area, I have covered the UNODA, Office of Disarmament Affairs, then UN Ocean. I presented a paper on the ocean laws and the BBNJ treaty, which is a very important topic. And it's nowadays everyone is saying that to sign and ratify the BBNJ treaty, which has taken up to more than 60 countries. So which is
It is about to be ratified, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So in India is yet to be ratified, but other countries has taken so far a very good initiative to come ahead and work on it. Next is I also went to the IUCN. They invited me to take up on the climate change. So I am also the board member of the IUCN CEC, which is the educational program, and where I work on the ocean education literacy, which is a new term nowadays. Ocean literacy now everyone is talking about, but very few are known to it and very few are working on it. There are two differences on that. So that those are the areas that I have covered. I also worked with the Indian Navy. Recently, I published one report with them, and I also presented in a few papers and get it released, published by them. Not only the Indian Navy but also the other think tanks. which is a good initiative that has all of them has taken place, that youth can take up their voices and their most of the technicalities that they are unexperienced with. So they do training as well. So first they provide the teaching capsules on ocean literacy, then they provide the high level technicalities that whether they should work upon those areas or not. You have the freedom to choose on this situation, especially in the think tanks, that which subject, which area of the ocean literacy or the ocean governance you want to work on. Not only the governance, but also every cluster that you want to take up on, either the policy, either the environmental law, or plastic in the ocean or maritime perspective. And the rest are from there, the journey has all started. And where I am is the MCCW.
That's really amazing and inspiring. So I know we're still getting the slides figured out, but I'm really enjoying where this conversation is going. So I'm just going to ask one more question, if it's okay with you. Did you have a role model growing up? I mean, as a young person entering the ocean diplomacy, maritime space, was there someone you had to look up to, especially maybe a female, or did you have to figure everything out all by yourself?
Well, before entering into the National Maritime Foundation or the UN portfolio, which I do have, I guess for that reason, I was unaware of the maritime area, or maybe the literacy of ocean literacy that I'm talking about. Because nobody in the curriculum in India teaches the same, or maybe they don't have the awareness of that. So first thing first is the awareness, and then
Yeah.
comes the capacity and the capability building. So, if the question is that the role model that I figured out, okay. So I started very first. I started by myself. Then I figured out, okay, there is some ocean literacy term and the jargon that they are putting forward. But I was really not, because I came from the very landlocked conflict zone. I was unaware of the coastal areas, because it's far from my hometown and the rest, or where I'm residing. But when I went to some events, and where I was speaking on certain topics, then I realized that this is something that I should take care of, because very less number of people in India as well as abroad are aware of. So first thing first, let's go on the awareness part, then let's have into the technicalities. There onwards that I started deciding. But I met one person during the journey, which is very, very, cute in nature, because when I was having the coffee during a session, and I just realized into the conversation, because he was the vice admiral. So I went to the chief of naval staff, which is the head of the navy in of Ministry of Defense in India. So we went to their home for one speaker party, and then we had the discussion with him. And then Admiral Karamveer Singh, he was very, very nice and humble, and he said that, Sakshi, if you really want to enhance your skills, then let's go into the ocean governance and study something that is very new and in nature, but they are very important to take care of. So they have said that, child, just go ahead and do something that is very necessary in nature. So where I landed up is today. That you all know.
Okay, that's amazing. So I'm still trying, we are all here still trying to get the slides, but can you try again and see if it will work from your end?
Let me check this out. It's showing that sharing is not turned on. You can request the sharing. So I have shared the request.
Yeah, can you try again? I think I just granted you access.
Okay, okay. Let me do a check. Mhm.
Is it working now?
Nope. I don't know. There are certain technicalities. Let's see.
Yeah.
Is this working? Okay. Which one is working? Okay. Gosh, I have to fill the screen first. Yeah. Is this?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, then. I guess now we have figured this out.
Yes.
So yes, this is the welcome to the session on youth leadership in ocean governance, where I'm going to address the climate-induced threats to national and maritime security, which is a very important issue as well as topic to discuss upon, because multiple times we have just said that climate change are the one of the reason to threats as a threat to the national security as well as the ocean security. So here I am with these notes, and then covers the my certain points which I have already discussed on the where I had been and what I did till now and who am I. So for like sliding over again and again, and this is where I am. I recently been to the COP, where are some good pictures with good faces, and with my teams to work upon with the high level roundtables as the dialogues. Also, now the main important part. I'm really happy that the people that had showed up to attend on this lecture. This is not a lecture, but more of a workshop that to make you aware what is the climate-induced threats. Now, I really want to give you a brief on what are the challenges that we face in the international security. So there are multiple challenges that is listed down. Number one is the traditional military conflict, which you have seen by the example of Russia-Ukraine war, or maybe the Sudan, which is currently the heated up. Second is the economic crisis in a great warfare. Then comes the third one, which is the transnational crime. And the fourth one is the environmental security. The fifth is the maritime disorder. The sixth could be the encounter at sea. The seventh, I could realize that they have one of the challenges that comes place is the technological driven crisis, which includes the cyber and AI, etc. Space is also the new one. And there are the eighth one, which is the miscellaneous part that will be discussed maybe in the later part. And I must inform the audience over here that environmental security went fourth in the rank to discuss on the security challenges that we always talk about. The top places that I have already told that it has been occupied by the transnational crimes and the warfare, economic crisis, and the rest. I always wonder that climatization of security or the securitization of climate. It is a very clever play, or I should say that it is a clever pride to tell you that this is a very good word of play. In this shift, the focus was on the war, because most of these cases, because war and climate change direct cause the relationship is yet to be established by the UNSC. There is no linkages that they show up, and where the relationship could be handled and maybe identified as it is. So we always used to say during the COP, UNIA, or maybe the other regional as well as the international conferences that there should be some relationship that could be identified by the UNSC or the other UN agencies to work upon, because this is the important aspect that we need to figure it out, which is still a gap. Now, coming ahead, that while there are conflicts in the regions that I have highlighted just now, we are always been aware that there are certain regions, there are certain consequences that has been taken place. And if I don't forget, the admiral, which I was talking about, he stated that climate change is a threat multiplier and aggravates the situation which can lead to the conflict. However, when leads to the conflict or no relationship is not really been established, but India has taken, being representative from India as well, I have seen and worked upon the maritime security responses on that. So I have taken seen that India has taken a very strident stand against the securitization of the climate change. Now, coming ahead, very important fact and a very interesting fact, I would say, that since 2007, on 8 different instances, UNSC have discussed the climate change. It's not that we haven't, been identified. The climate change has not been identified by the UNSC. But the problem was, like, just for your information, not as a very important fact, but you should be aware of that in 2000, UNSC passed a resolution itself in the fight against the HIV and AIDS, stating that it can lead to the conflict causing the relationship established. So here, just a small overview that what I'm trying to bring out here is that the UNSC has been trying to empower itself or to increase the ambit of its operation. So the entire thing that I wanted to bring out is the same. So, for example, global warming is impacting our environment physically and also consistently. Destruction of the forest and unintended types of or the other indirect impacts that has been done so far, including the marine species and all of the other factors that has been taken place during the intentions. So since the turn of 21st century, political actors such as the states and international organizations have developed and promoted a discourse that links the climate change and security. However, the process is untimely. The possible the links between the multidimensional and synergistic of climate change, natural and human system and threats. The maritime security has only just begun. As I have stated that the awareness is very less. Nobody, not nobody, but almost nobody knows about the maritime security responses and the maritime threats that has been taken place and the role of climate change that has been, becoming the major factor to become the maritime, security threat. And nevertheless, but human influence on climate system is very clear. We all know recent anthropogenic interventions for risking maritime security are the highest in history. Not to noting the fact of the controversy, but we have seen during the COP as well, because the COP is going ahead, and we have seen various news on Amazon is on fire because of the deforestation, as the more of the important leaders are coming to the Amazonia. And the Brazil and the Belém are so high, including their coastal regions. They are still trying to figure that out, how things are going to be. So both climate change and to a lesser extent maritime security are the highest in the history. And they have been recognized as the priority in the cross-sectoral global policy agenda. Similarly, the past decades, the research on maritime criminal activities, unlawful acts, and the violent behaviors that is illegal, fishing, or maybe the policy and robbery at sea, arms and drug smuggling, human trafficking also plays a role, which has increasingly explored the interaction between the economic, social, political, and geopolitical factors, which is the maritime security. This I wanted to highlight on the vicious cycle that is already listed over here. So climate change has directly or indirectly linked to the national security. The discussion on climate change and maritime security are high, very high on political and governmental agenda. The risk to why I'm talking about the discussion rather than the implementation part, because most of them are not aware of the segment. They really have to work upon that, and they really want to discuss upon the major issues that we want to address upon. The risk to national security posed by the climate change, and which is a phenomena that acts as a threat multiplier, is aggregating the natural disasters, water, food, and energy insecurities, contributing to the conditions that can catalyze the conflict stability, and state failure, intensifying the existing security risk. Where the laws are weak, where welfare of coastal dwellers is compromised by the governments, there it leads to political and economical instabilities. Climate change or the activities that challenge the maritime order and governance, and are the areas where trafficking of drugs, then weapons, co-fishing, and then the major irregular migration, robbery, kidnapping, and piracy. I am not just jotting down the areas where we have to address the part. These are the major critical impact that should be done, and we should think over that how these weaknesses can be not regenerated, and we should adapt certain policies to make them very less and minimalistic. Now coming ahead, very important, which is the climate change and maritime criminality, which also plays a very inclusive theme to discuss on the maritime governance or the ocean governance. So it affects the natural system, in which turns the negative impact on human system. So the proliferation of one of the form, which I remember, that maritime crime, for example, the illegal fishing can contribute to the emergence of another, that is piracy. I have already shared the map of what is the trade route that in the Indian Ocean that covers the areas to during the maritime criminality, and how climate change can impact that. Now, a very consistent, significantly under-focused impact of climate change is direct and indirect, which is the criminal behavior. The homeless, migrant, and climate refugee extremely vulnerable for luring to the criminal by fish lords and brick cartels are always on lookout to the trap them against the cheap offering, which are inescapable for the survival. So let me bring you something over here. The example, which is very focused on the impact on the criminal behavior. So when you go on to the coastal region, there are fisher communities. There are the communities where immigrated community who are, or maybe the other communities who are living in the coastal region. So the impact of the climate change leads to the very, some drug mafia that has been taken place, or the fish lots that has become, so that, the major market will be captured by them. So these are the areas which we really need to address upon. And we are survival crimes thus generated, like duly amplified by the climate change. The global warming, any forms, and even can proliferate into the submersive, extremist and terrorist activities, because which is the not in India, because in India there are the landlocked terrorism as well, and there are the coastal terrorism as well. So those who are landlocked, because India survives with the three down oceans. Even I have the map in the background and in the front that you can see in the presentation. We all have the ocean, addressed areas that should be done from this area to this, like from eastern west to western. Then comes the very important, which is the we talk about the government role. Then the survival and the government fail to provide the necessary opportunities for welfare of the population. They get involved into the committing crimes forbidden by the law. So get amplified by the severe climate conditions substantially. A list of rampant paradigm crimes which are easily aggravated by the climate of surge is displayed on the screen. Then the strong connection between the rising temperature and the climate is well established. There's no roller coaster on it. It is well established now. So climate change dampens the economic activity in coastal areas and challenges the government to address the issue. The neglect of welfare of climate affected populations by government leads to violence against the neighboring countries for the want of better lifestyle. So the climate change indirectly reduces the armed conflict, if you accept it or not, which we have so far been, happy to get this brief on this statement that climate change indirectly reduces the armed conflict. The sea level rises causes inducing, and then with increased salinity, contaminate the areas, leading to the unprecedented water scarcity failures. And which reduces the fisheries production and for food shortage, leading to health emergencies, employment, and displacement. So in totality, I would say that homeless people are identified as environmental refugees now, since their homes were destroyed and communities disintegrated, as they could not sustain the pressures created by the extreme weather events. Conflict of locals thus generated, the leading to theft, burglary, and increased violent activities. I'm not, giving them they are the more culprit in the region, but I would say that the circumstances also says and lead them to do it, become the theft or the refugee or the other grounds that they have to identify themselves. So I would also like to address the important part, which is the role of youth. And in the very first of the presentation, I have discussed on the role of youth and the youth leadership in the ocean governance. So there are areas which I really want to address. And the first one is from the security perspective. Rising seas and intensifying the storms raise the vulnerability. Vulnerability of what? Now comes the bases, ports, supply chains. Then comes the smaller island jurisdiction. Then the projection from the IPCC, which is the ER6, if I'm not wrong, make it clear that we must anticipate more frequent extreme water level events and adjust our operational readiness accordingly. Then comes the maritime domain awareness they can work upon, and they're currently doing a great job on it. I have heard about the Bodhi Patel and the previous speakers that have, came into and came here and discussed on the maritime domain awareness as such. And they also, their projects and the leadership in the ocean governance, maritime conservation, and the climate change impacts are very much, appreciated. And they are as you know that the young people have the fresh energy and the tech savvy skills, which you must admire of, and we all as a youth must admire of that. We should flex on that, because you know that we have the energy, we have the innovation skills, that we can develop anything, we can develop any project, any ideas that can come into play. Even the local networks can play a very good role on that. Then there are a certain maritime domain awareness where we can be the first responders, analysts to maritime domain awareness and coastal resilient architecture. Third could be the operational support, which is we must integrate the youth into national maritime security frameworks, which is still not there. But I guess now the programs and the training ship has been established, and now people are getting the teaching capsule, which I did, and rest other innovative or maybe the other youth members are also getting the leadership by their traineeship in there are UN agencies, they're also working on the training segments. Even recently, I was with the UN Ocean conference. Then I was figured out that the UN Ocean are also providing certain Ocean Decade are providing certain programs for the youth to engage more importantly, and they are including the as an expert where youth can share their own opinions and the ideas over there. Third are the very important, which is the I also wanted to address the part that UNSC level deliberations are needed to be taken place, and we are still figuring out what can be done. But nevertheless, however, we have also seen that few things could be done, and youth innovation for sensor systems, maybe reporting apps, and then radars, community level early warning tools. These are the areas that we can work upon, and we can collaborate with each other to make them, make it more interesting and, impactful. And then the fourth and the fifth, which is I will not cover more, and I would not like to bore you, but as you are also being part of the youth governance and maybe the a major project that you are currently leading upon. So policy and diplomatic engagement is the very crucial and I guess the most significant one, where youth representatives influence the national security. I just observe as a consultant or the advisor, but there are people who are deeply indulged as the full-time contractor, or maybe the as an associate or some other aspects where they can contribute to the national security strategies as well as the climate negotiations, and they can bring the fresh perspective on the table, and which is very crucial. Now is the time that you can show up and you can just discuss upon, so this is the very important platform to discuss upon these kind of issues. I really appreciate them for accepting the fact that and accepting my topic, because most of the people are thinking that these are mostly into the defense perspective. So I guess nobody should, civic engagement should not be there. They are the motive of the Ministry of Defense from across the world. But I think civil military fusion is the one that we should now, work upon, and we should be figuring out how civil military fusion can be established so that they both can work together, including the UN agencies, to, make this work as well as make this a success. The fifth and the last point, I really am rushing it up. So if you have any questions in between, or maybe the any point, just let me know. Innovation and technology, the young teams should develop and are developing the low cost sensor, and which I have already shared. Yes.
Hey, Sakshi, thank you so much for your informative presentation. So I just wanted to have your opinion or your perspective more on two things specifically. The first one is kind of it together, and then the second point is more leading towards the topic of your presentation.
The problem is that I am not able to hear you properly.
Oh no. Okay.
Olivia, are you able to hear her?
Yes, I could. Yeah, if you can just repeat what you said.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to have her perspective on two different things. The first one is kind of a mix of two, going back to the presentation from yesterday, because we spoke about Palau and high-risk countries and the maritime security will pose due to climate change risk. So I wanted your thoughts more on these high-risk areas like Palau and what that seems to look like in Southeast Asia and the Pacific as a maritime security issue. And maybe we start there.
Do you mind writing your question? Because I'm struggling to hear you too. I heard Palau and yeah, but that was it.
Okay, wait.
Sorry.
Okay.
Meanwhile, I just end up my presentation so that it will be easier for you to navigate the entire workshop. So yeah, so I would like to, what I have discussed so far is on the topic and related to the topic. So India's maritime, not the India's, but international maritime security, as well as the climate-induced threats that we are talking about in a changing climate, because right now I'm also living in a very changing climate, dynamic climate, which is not constant anymore, will depend not only on the steel of her ships and but also on the strength, skills, and the steward of her youth. And I really want to take upon that. I guess now is the time that we all should define how the ocean is governed, secured, as well as sustained. So let's hoping the best, as well as let's work upon these aspects as well, so that we can have the policy interventions and the governance side, including the communication and the conservation part, so that policy leadership and the conservation leadership could come together, then only the laws will be made. So it's the time to let's have the linkages between all of them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that insightful presentation, Sakshi. That was so brilliant. So just going back to the question that we have now, she's curious to know your perspective on current high rates.
Can you actually hear me now?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So I was saying I was curious to know your perspectives on two items specifically. But the first one's kind of entrenched in the topic we discussed yesterday about high-risk areas due to climate change, sea level rise in Palau, because the talk yesterday was about mobilizing youth from Palau to be advocates for fighting for their rights as climate refugees in the next couple of years, right? So I want to know, because I don't know much about maritime governance or policy or security in Southeast Asia and the Pacific, and what that looks like, and what risks it poses in the area, like very briefly. And also kind of interested to know more about your perspective on more recent cases. For example, in the Caribbean, where you have U.S. Intervention within the Caribbean, where we're dealing with necropolitics at this point, where they're killing fishermen and accusing them of being drug traffickers. If you can share a little bit more on your perspective, and how you see that moving forward. And for other cases, looking at again, climate change, how do we talk about situations like Hurricane Melissa and the issues and threats it poses on a maritime security issue, on an ocean governance issue? And that's kind of my first question, is more like perspectives on what's ongoing, what's recent, what's immediately happening right now. And then the second part is just really quickly, when we're talking about youth engagement in ocean governance and maritime security, what do you think are the most useful skills for youth to come prepared to the table when we're talking about ocean governance and maritime security? Because from my own experience, like at our ocean conference, there were many youth that were interested, but they felt kind of left out, because a lot of them become very like high level, lots of jargon for people that are already in the space. What would you recommend for youth that are trying to get in the space, that are starting out? What would be the, maybe let's say 3 top useful skills for them? And those are my many questions. Thanks.
That's really good to know that. Yes, it's quite an interesting question, as well as the important one to address. I guess from the maritime perspective, the standpoint is about the nations like Palau, or they represent the front line of climate-driven instability that are still there. Once their shield is fast becoming their primary threat vector, rising sea levels and acidifying the water are eroding the coastlines. So displacing the communities and compromising the EEZ, which is the exclusive economic zone, that are the very foundation of their economic sovereignty. So when the maritime baseline shift, so do the legal claims under the clause. So the cumulative effect is strategic fragility, which is the infrastructure under the threat. Fisheries migrating beyond jurisdiction, and a humanitarian crisis is also the play. Then noting your question on the Southeast Asia and the wider Pacific, as well as because I was working on the Indo-Pacific recently, and I came to understand that it's a preview and not a very distant problem. So, climate change in most immediate form is a threat multiplier. It amplifies the existing maritime challenges. from illegal fishing to resource scarcity. Then we have also targeted on the maritime piracy, and then terrorism, illicit IUU, which is the unregulated fishing. It tests that the operational readiness of the regional navies and coast guard is very necessary. What we must now pursue is a very calibrated security framework. What we have done so far, we have already identified that with the threat multiplier. But now our major priority being into the, when we talk about the international security, our major priority is on the security, not the climate change. But now if we say that the climate change is also one of the threat and it's a threat multiplier that we should address, and we should, keep a note on, then now we must now pursue is a calibrated security framework. And that fuses the naval capability and with resilient building. Now, talking about the Palau's struggle is actually a signal for all of us. Either we prepare our maritime frontiers with foresight, with cooperation, and or we will find the ties deciding our security for us. So it's also depend upon us that how we are seeing it and how we are taking our these kind of changes that we should bring it up and we should adapt it or not. So it's up to the country that whether they are adopting it or not. But I think nowadays is the time that we all have to work upon based on the cases and the example that you have mentioned so far. Now, your second question on the youth, which is the very interesting part, that we all know that what youth should do. We are aware that youth has the potential, youth has the energy, youth has the skills nowadays because they are getting the training so far. What role they can play? So I have already shared that the Coastal Resilience Network or the youth network they should also get engaged into more technicality. They should help in monitoring and responding to the sea level rise. And then comes the maritime domain awareness. Now the young people or the community volunteers, they can assist into the reporting small vessel activity or maybe the sea route disruptions and marine environmental changes. For example, I'm giving you the example at the any coastal region that you can take upon, or any island that you want to address it as a case. Then you will find it out that there are the reason where you will see that very volunteer, they don't have any payment, but still they want that this should be done. Exampling one of the case that in our coastal region in India, in Mumbai, a few of the youth group as a network, they were working on the some project over there, but they find it out that there are some sea level or boat falling down by themselves, and nobody is over there to secure them, and they took the initiative to work upon it. So it comes from inside. It's over the situation you have to do certain on the spot acceptance that you have to generate your mind by training that you have taken place so far in somebody else or somewhere else. So it's up to the youth that whether how they're responding to those kind of issues and the cases. So I come down to very important part that the immediate responses, the reporting is the second one. Then comes the policy segment. I think youth representative, I think they should show up in the climate change conferences and the regional and the international conferences or summits to, most of them, if you show up, if you speak upon, if you question it, because nobody can question right now. Nobody are questioning for these kind of situations. So if you don't question it, then how will they are aware of that what is going on, what is not? And we are the one who can make them aware, because all of those who are sitting in the very, high level round tables or high level cabinets, they are mostly the aged ground people, not the young generation right now. So if you want to be represented, then just show up, just speak up and question it. And you can also influence the national security, as rightly questioned to me, that fresh perspective into the framework are such an amazing initiative that you can play a role on. And UN is open to take up the call. There are the inputs that, for example, Children Youth Major Group, they have opened the Ocean and Governance Network. So and they open it for all. Like you can just put up your input, put up your recommendation over the draft resolution, and then they can be headed and they can be presented to the in front of the UNEP headquarter and in front of the UNEP Secretary General. So these are the initiatives that can be taken place. And coming to the last and the very important, I guess, operational support or the innovation technology. So I guess I mostly deal on the policy segment. So if you have and your team are corely, related to develop something, or if you have done certain engineering background, or you want to develop some radar sensors or some data analytics that you have so far, just bring it on. You have the social media, use it, and just bring it on over the table. That's the only case youth can play the role.
Okay, thanks for that answer, Sakshi. Do we have any other question for our speaker before we let her go? All right. So we don't have any question. That means that the presentation was really clear and we all understood and we learned a lot about youth leadership in ocean governance and how we can all address climate change-induced threats to national and maritime security. For me, the key takeaway has been coastal young people can contribute and support this through coastal resilience networks, maritime domain awareness, operational support, policy and diplomatic engagement, and innovation and technology. So as we always say here at MarineCommsweek, technology and innovation in action, and that is what we are looking forward to. So thanks to everyone for joining us. Thanks to our speaker for the presentation. This has been an amazing session, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow on another amazing session of MarineCommsweek. If you are not following us on our social media pages, I ask that you please follow us on IG, MarineCommsweek, and YouTube to have chance to rewatch the videos or anything that you missed from the session. Thanks everyone for joining. See you tomorrow, same time. Please show up. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Take care.